Alright, hello and welcome back to another deck profile, specifically another Dark Magician deck profile. Now, I did one of these a while ago now, back as one of the first requests that I took, but this time I'm just doing it for me because this is the deck I've been having the most fun with recently in the game. Obviously, with the everything surrounding Apprentice Illusion Magician and finally getting a reprint and being such an expensive card for a long time, and obviously the card really helps out the deck, just adds that consistency of almost free summon. There's a lot of things that the card does for the deck, and it really helps out. So this coming out in the Legendary Dragon decks, along with Circled, along with pretty much everything in the deck, and an ultra rare. Rarity is going to be very nice and allow the deck to be more accessible to a lot of people, which is really cool. So I figured I'd throw my hat into the ring for a deck profile and get this out there. And also it's going to be searched a lot now, so that helps. But besides that, again, it's just a super fun deck. I'm really enjoying it. I go through ups and downs in this game, and I'm kind of at a down right now where I'm losing interest, but this deck is kind of pulling me back in because it's so fun, it's very interesting, and I'm just really enjoying it right now. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into this. I won't be touching too much on the strengths and weaknesses and going too in-depth in this one because I actually just did a video with a replay discussing kind of the weaknesses of the deck. If you want to check that out, I'll have a card to that up on screen right now. But anyway, starting off, we have 3 copies of plain vanilla Dark Magician. Obviously, this is the same kind of thing as Blue Eyes. You need it for the deck to function. You need him in hand for navigation. You can special him off Eternal Soul. He basically makes the deck run, and we have a lot of ways to get him to hand so that we can play the game. After him, we have 3 copies of Magician of Black Illusion, which counts as Dark Magician on the field and has some other interesting effects. Each one is once per turn. His first one is during your opponent's turn. If you activate a spell or trap card or effect, excepting the damage step, you can special him from your hand. Now, whenever he specials, he counts as Dark Magician on the field, so he does trigger Circle, so you can do some cheeky things like, even if you don't have a Dark Magician in hand, you can activate Eternal Soul, not even add anything off of it, special him, and then banish something on the field. And also, if you activate a spell or trap card or effect while this card is face up on your field, excepting the damage step, you can target one Dark Magician in your graveyard, special summon it. So then say next turn you have a Dark Magician in grave, you could activate a Circle, then special another Dark Magician back, then banish something off of that Circle. So he really helps out the deck. He counts as Dark Magician, which helps with the new Fusion card. So obviously a 3 of, he's basically another Dark Magician. So you basically have kind of like 3 copies and 3 half copies almost, but I really like him, definitely 3 in the deck. Next we have Apprentice Illusion Magician. Now, she's obviously the main one that everyone's been talking about, and for good reason. She's super expensive, but she's going to be coming down now. Now, her effect is you can special summon this card from your hand by discarding 1 card. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add 1 Dark Magician from your deck to your hand, and she kind of has like an honest effect where you can ditch her or send her from the field to grave to give a Dark Magician 2,000 attack points. That isn't what she's mainly good for, but it really helps out. Now, obviously, the main problem is if you can't get Dark Magician to hand with your setup cards. This deck is a control setup deck. You have to get Circles, you have to get an Eternal Soul and Navigation, you have to have a Magician in hand. You set up and then you control the game from there, and she helps out with that setup because you can special her, you can add a Dark Magician to hand. It doesn't even have to be off her effect. Say you just want to, you have a navigation set in a Circle, you can activate the navigation, special Dark Magician, special her, add another copy of Dark Magician to hand for another navigation or more Eternal Souls, things like that. So again, she just really helps out. And an attack boost is never bad to have. Just look at Alistair. Next up, we have 3 copies of Magician's Rod. Now, Magician's Rod is your only real normal summon for the deck, although sometimes I have normal summoned Apprentice to grab a Dark Magician to hand. His effect is when he's normal summoned, you can add 1 spell or trap card from your deck to your hand that specifically lists the card Dark Magician in its text. So pretty much any of our Dark Magician themed spell and trap cards except for the Eye of Timaeus, which is for the new Fusion. Also, during your opponent's turn, if you activate a spell or trap card or effect while this card is in your graveyard, you contribute 1 spellcaster type monster, add this card to your hand. Now that comes in super handy. Say you activate like a navigation, you can special or say like you have him in grave, you activate navigation, you can special a Dark Magician, special an Apprentice. Apprentice can grab a Dark Magician to hand, you can tribute the Apprentice, add this back to hand, normal summon him next turn, and grab any spell or trap card that you need, say they out your Circle or an Eternal Soul or anything, you can just add another one to hand. So he recycles It's not like an every turn kind of thing, but whenever you need him, you can add him back. He's really helpful, really useful. Again, another one of those definite 3-ofs, just because he's that little bit that really helps the deck run. For hand traps, I'm running 2 copies of Ash Blossom. Now, I'm really liking this card right now. In pretty much every matchup I'm finding myself, it doesn't shut them down entirely, but it stops their power plays. And that's what's really important in this deck, because it's a control deck. Every turn you're specialing, you're banishing 1, special, banish 1, and that's not always enough. But with Ash Blossom, you can, because you're not entirely stopping their plays just with your banish 1 either, but with the Ash Blossom, you're kind of, that combo kills them. And this is just another way to, again, stop them from going off fully and let you keep control of the game. So I really like Ash Blossom in the deck. And if I had room, I'd probably bump it up to 3. There's some wiggle room in this deck. I'm still playing around with the build, so I'll probably update it soon, because there's probably going to be a lot more of this deck on the channel, because I'm really loving it right now. For draw cards, I'm running 2 of the major ones. I'm running 2 Allure, 2 Desires, and 2 Duality. Now, these are some interesting ratios. I've been thinking about dumping the Desires for another Duality, for another Allure, or, dump the Allures for Duality Desires. There's a lot of different combos you can do with them. Now, I like Allure and Duality because they combo well with Circle. You can use Circle to set up the top 3 cards of your deck, or the top 2 cards of your deck, then use Allure or Duality to get the ones you want with some guarantees. Like, there have been times where I was playing against a Blue Eyes player, and he had 2 level 8s on field, and I kind of read that he was going to go for an XYZ play next turn. So I activate Circle, I see I got a Strike and a Magician's Rod, so I stack those 1 and 2, activate Allure, draw into them both, banish the Rod, set the Strike, and stopped his play from there. And it's the same kind of thing with Duality, although it does give away what you're adding, but it lets you pick what you want to add to your hand, whereas Desires is just kind of a blind go for it. However, Desires is so powerful and so free that it's just so damn good. And this is a deck of 3-ofs, so you can stand to banish, a Soul or a Circle or a Navigation. The only problem is if you banish your Magicians, you're done for. You want to have at least 2 of those in hand or in circulation before you activate this card, although there are times where you'll have to activate it before that just to get going. So this is a lot riskier than most decks, even though it's all 3-ofs, just because if you banish your Magicians, you're pretty much done for. But I have been liking this ratio. If anything, I'd probably change the Desires for now. After that, we have 2 copies of Illusion Magic. You tribute a spellcaster, add 2 copies of Dark Magician to your hand. So your normal play is to normal summon Rod, add this, tribute the Rod, get 2 to hand, then you can Desires, your Eternal Souls, your Navigations are live, that makes your Circle live. But I'm only running 2 of it because, again, you really want to see it with Magician's Rod. You want to normal summon him, grab this, already have your setup cards in hand. I don't want to be seeing a whole bunch of copies of this in my hand, especially late game when I've already set up my Magicians, so I'm only running 2 copies of it. After that, we have 3 copies of Dark Magical Circle, which, in my opinion, is the best card in the entire deck. If you can't set one of these up, there's a big chance you're not going to win the game, because this is your push. This is what's really helping you control, is that special banish. Every turn you get that banish, and that's what's really important, I think. Again, like I've discussed in the BA replay I showed off, this deck loses hard to losing your power cards, to losing your Circles and your Eternal Souls. So you want to try to maintain those, and Circle definitely most of all. There are times where I'll go for a Circle, even if I don't have a way to activate it, and I could, like say I already have a Dark Magician in hand, I could just add a Navigation, special that. There are times where I'll go for the Circle instead and hope, just because without the Circle you're not doing much. It's a themed duality for the deck. Whenever you special a Dark Magician, you banish a card. It works with, Magician of Black Illusion as well. Again, that one banish is just super important. Now, speaking on the fact of losing your back row, we do have a new fusion for Dark Magician, which I'll cover now. And it's Dark Magician the Dragon Knight that's coming out in the Legendary Dragon decks. It needs Dark Magician and 1 Dragon monster. It becomes Dark Magician while on the field or in the graveyard, so you can special it back off Eternal Soul, which is very important. It triggers Circle, which is great as well. Your opponent cannot... Also, yeah, just start reading it. That makes sense. That won't sound weird. But the other part of its effect is your opponent cannot target spells and traps you control with card effects. Also, they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So this protects your back row. They can't Cyclone it because they can't target it, and they can't be destroyed, so they can't just MST it. They can't mass removal it. They have to work to get rid of your back row, which is simply amazing, and that's why I'm running 2 of this card and 3 Eye of Timaeus, even if it clogs. If you don't know Eye of Timaeus, you basically just tribute a Dark Magician and then special that from the extra deck, although you can't search this card off of Circle or Magician's Rod or anything like that. But again, it does clog. There are times where you'll see 2 of these in hand, you don't want to, but you can ditch them off Apprentice. You can set them as some bluffs, which I've successfully done. But again, it's just so important to keep your back row that I do want to see this card, and I do want to set up the new fusion. Speaking of back row removal, we do run 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, basically because it's a better MST, and 1 copy of Dark Magic Attack to search off of Eternal Soul. If you're playing against a deck like Paleo, you could side more of these because they're searchable, and that's why I have the extra one down there. But this is one I've been considering bumping up to 2 just because it's a searchable destruction for, any back row. Although there are a lot of times where we'd rather be specialing a Dark Magician instead of adding this to trigger your circle. But it's there if you need it, and I'll usually say activate Soul End Phase at this, and then just have it in hand. If they don't have any back row, you can ditch it for Apprentice. It's definitely at least a 1 of in the deck, if not a 2 of. After that, we have 3 copies of Magician's Navigation, Special Magician from your hand, Special 1 from deck, and then when this is in the grave, you can banish it, target a face-up spell and trap card your opponent controls, negate its effects till the end of its turn. Now, obviously, this is what I'll like to go for before Eternal Soul. I like to set up one of these, special out 2, and then I'll start going for the Eternal Soul and recycling, those 2 Magicians I summoned. Obviously, you can go for Dark Magician and Apprentice, add another Dark Magician, then your Soul's live, more Navigations are live. You can go for your Dark Magician and a Magician to Black Illusion, then you have a 25 defense and a 25 attacker. You can go for rank 7 plays whenever it passes back to your turn, or if you set it and then waited until your turn to use it. This card is just insane. I actually like it better than Eternal Soul because it doesn't have the drawbacks of, being destroyed and then losing everything. But if you can get out the fusion with Eternal Soul, then Eternal Soul is better because it's that once a turn, every turn, they're unaffected. It's so damn strong. And I pretty much just covered Eternal Soul, but yeah. Once per turn, you can either add a Dark Magic Attack or 1,000 Knives, or special Dark Magician, and this is really what gives you your once a turn banish. You set up this in a circle in the new fusion, and you have an unstoppable every turn banish control with a 3k on field. And it's just simply amazing, and if they out your 3k, you can special it back off of this, which is why I really love it. And then rounding things off, we have 2 copies of Strike and 1 Warning, the Mini Solemn Brigade there. Moving on to the extra deck, it's nothing super special. There's only like 1 thing I'll really go over. But let's go ahead and get into it. We already went over the new fusion. I'm running 2 of him, 1 break sword just in case you get 2 rods on field. For our rank 6 plays, we run 1 Bouncer, 1 M7, 1 Naruto, and 1 number 39. And Naruto can actually be used with 2 apprentices to go into a Dark Magician, or Ebon Illusion Magician, which does come up every now and then. But we're running 2 copies of him and 1 copy of Ebon High Magician. Just because, say, your opponent has a way they can, like, against Pendulum Magicians, once per turn they can destroy something on the field, and you have, like, I don't know, just they have some kind of, like, back row removal or something, but you need to be able to get, a navigation or something off. You could go into this, keep it in hand, and then kind of go from there, but I really don't find myself going into it that much. Now, an interesting choice, I'm running 2 copies of Big Eye. Now, I like this because I have had a lot of times where I'll go for a Big Eye and they'll strike it or they'll stop it. And I do want to have another one ready to go, especially now with links being a thing in real life. If they stop it, you can take another one. You always have it as an option. And Big Eye is so strong right now, I definitely want to have it as an option. So that's why I'm running 2 copies of Big Eye, and it has come up before. So I definitely recommend running 2 copies of it, especially with the wiggle room this extra deck has, as you can tell. And round things off, we're running 1 Draco Sack, 1 Master of Blades, and 1 Red Eyes Flare Metal, just in case we get them low. Now, speaking on the extra deck and some side deck or main deck choices, you could do Ghost Reaper simply because you really don't, you don't need all the space in the extra deck. There's a lot of cards you could cut. There's a lot of times you won't even go into the extra deck. You'll just, kind of sit and especially Dark Magicians and play around like that. I've been finding myself going into Dark Magician the Dragonite more than anything recently. And especially with Link format, you could just sit on one of those and then use some spaces for Ghost Reaper targets. And also because it's controlling more monsters than you do, there's a lot of times where, say, you'll go first, you'll just set up, a Navigation and Eternal Soul set with like a circle, you don't have any monsters on the field. So you can just wait till your opponent summons a monster, you can kind of read what they're playing from there, and then activate this card and banish whatever's important to them. So that is a very, I think that is a strong option, especially with the way this deck works. Turn 1, this card will pretty much always be live, but at that point you kind of have to run 3 just because you have to see it turn 1. If you're running Kaijus or want to do a Kaiju theme, there is a level 7 Dark Kaiju in Radiant, That works for lore, that works for rank 7 plays, and he's 2800, which is a pretty beefy attack, 25 defense. So he can add some extra power to the deck as well. And because a lot of the time, you're just going to be sitting on your Dark Magicians, everything in your deck is Spellcasters. If there's a deck relevant that needs multiple types of monsters, you can run Rivalry, Goes and Match, cards like that, because everything in your deck pretty much matches. And again, if you're playing against like a heavy backer deck like Paley or something, you can side in some more copies of Dark Magic Attack and kind of blow them out from there. But anyway, I've been talking about this deck for a while because I just simply love it right now, so let's go ahead and get into some replays. Alright, so getting into our first one here, I'm going first against Pen Magicians. As you can see, it's an interesting opening. We got 2 Desires, 1 Duality, and I have Timaeus and an Ash Blossom, so we're basically going to have to Desires. If we're going to go Duality first, we're going to get a Solemn Warning, a Timaeus, and an Apprentice Illusion Magician. I went for the Apprentice Illusion Magician because I could go for the Warning, but who knows if I'll get anything set up from there. I'd like to be able to resolve that to draw some Dark Magicians out, so I went for that, although we're going to Desires anyway and hope to get something. And we did get a Cosmic Cyclone, which will let us special out a Magician of Dark Illusion on our opponent's turn, and we still have an Ash Blossom in hand, so it's not too bad. He's going to go ahead and Desires, and we're obviously going to Ash Blossom that. We're stopping that right now. He's going to set 2 scales and go for the Pen Summon. I could have banished one of the scales before, and I did stop and think about it, but I'd rather let him Pen Summon, see if he's going to pop anything or activate any effects since he still had 3 cards in hand, then just shotgun it out there, and he would have been able to complete his scales. Actually, he would have been able to complete them anyway. But we can still get some use out of it because he's going to go to pop the Oath Dragon, and we'll Cosmic Cyclone that. And then, my thinking here for Special Magician of Dark Illusion is I'd special it, and to get over it, he'd have to go into something suboptimal. He couldn't go for Searcher or anything like that. And he did. He went for the Cast Out, which I don't think is the right play. He lost all his resources. He has pretty much nothing left just to out one monster which wasn't doing anything. If I was him, I would have gone for the Search and set up some resources. Now, we'll go ahead and specially Apprentice here. We'll grab a Dark Magician, then we can Desires. We'll get a Circle into another Circle, but it's whatever. And again, we're just kind of sitting on nothing. We're waiting for a way to special one of these or something like that. He's going to go ahead and set up the Time Pendulum Graph, which I thought was a very good play. He can pop any cards I set to special the Dark Magicians. He can get rid of the Circle. With that one he has in scale there, he can special one back off of that. So I think that was a smart play there. We'll go ahead and get a Magician of Black Illusion. We'll activate a Circle, and we'll actually get into a Navigation from there. Now, here's what I was talking about earlier with baits. Most people will set the most important card they have first. So they'll be like, oh, say you have a Strike and a Desires, you'll set the Strike, then the Desires. Just naturally, you're going with what's important first, and people will try to read that. So I went ahead and set the Eye of Timaeus first, and then the Navigation. He's going to go ahead and hit the first one, which I think is the correct call, but I set the Navigation second. So we're going to go ahead. He can either pop one of our Circles if you still have another one. He'll choose to pop the Navigation, which wasn't correct. I could just chain it anyway. He should hit one of the Circles. So we'll go ahead and chain that. We'll special out Dark Magician, special out Apprentice. Go ahead and grab another Dark Magician to hand off of that. That's going to get Ghost Ogre, but we don't care. We'll special a Magician in Black Illusion. He'll special the Astrograph Sorcerer. We're up to chain like 5. It's getting crazy. And he's actually going to go ahead and scoop from there. He could have crashed and tried to keep going, but if he didn't, we could just Big Eye, we could take that, so we pretty much did have it from there. Alright, getting into our next one, we're up against, what is it, Ancient Gear, yes, with Double Summon, that's weird, but it's whatever. We're going to be going forced here, and forced, thank you, Bray, that was a bit forced, wasn't it? I'll jump out the window now, but no, we're going to be going first against Ancient Gear here. It's going to take a turn of setup, but we're pretty much going to go off from there, which is pretty accurate to what the deck does. So we'll go ahead and Duality into the Navigation. Oh no, into the Dark Magician since we have the Eternal Soul. That's right. So we have that set up. We have a Cosmic Cyclone, so it's not the strongest setup, but next turn we can go for our Fusion, which I do like to be able to do. Now he's just going to go ahead and set the Ancient Gear box. We're going to end phase, add the Dark Magic Attack to hand, because even though he doesn't have spells and traps, we can ditch it off for the Apprentice Illusion Magician at really no cost to us since it was free. We'll go ahead and Allure and be greedy. We'll draw into a Dark Magician in a Circle, or use the Circle to grab a Navigation, which is insane. Now we have our Banish set up. So now we can go ahead, we can search out Dark Magician, special one, we can banish his face down, and then go for the Fusion to protect our back row. So we pretty much have the setup. Turn 2, we end, or turn 3, yeah. we ended up with an Eternal Soul and in a Dark Magical Circle that can't be destroyed or targeted by card effects, with a Dark Magician in hand and grave and a navigation. So we're set up and ready to go and banish pretty much anything he does. We'll go ahead and set the navigation, we'll pass it over to him. He's going to go ahead for the Ancient Gear Fusion and make this, the Megaton Ancient Gear Golem. Now I could have banished this, but then he gets special an Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem, and I wasn't sure what that did, so I'm just going to go ahead and let him swing over both my stuff. End phase, I'll banish that, and then my turn, I could banish the one that gets brought out off of it. So we'll go ahead and swing over one of them. End phase with navigation. We'll go ahead and attempt to grab another Magician to hand, but we actually didn't have any left in deck, but that actually gives us a rank 6 play anyway, so if we couldn't out that, we could go into Utopia Beyond and swing over it. But obviously we have the Eternal Soul and a Magician in grave, so we'll just go ahead and we'll special back the Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight, banish that, and swing for game from there. So as you can see, you get that set up, you get rolling, and it's hard to stop you. Even though it's just one banish a turn, your stuff's unaffected, your spells and traps are protected with the new card, and you just control the game from there. And getting into our last one, it's a very interesting one. It's us against Psyframes here, which is something very interesting because you both kind of play on your opponent's turn. Psyframes is pretty much solely on your opponent's turn, but Dark Magician kind of shifts back and forth between playing on your turn and playing on your opponent's turn depending on the game state. So go ahead and get rolling here. We'll get a Duality, which I believe we're going to grab the Circle off of, yes. Again, I forget what else was in there, but I went for the Circle because I already have these setup cards. Even if I don't get a Dark Magician off of this, I'd rather have the Banish set up and ready to go and dig for a Dark Magician than just be specialing Dark Magicians when they're not actually doing anything. And the Circle will actually grab us another Circle, which, does suck. But if we do get a Dark Magician, we're set up and ready to go. Now he's going to draw Struggling Battle for turn, go right to battle phase, and banish everything. And obviously in Psyframes, that's fucking insanity. Now, we'll let the Circle, the Soul, and the Cyclone go, because we have a Navigation, which is a stronger setup card than Eternal Soul, and another Circle in hand, so we can actually recover from there, even after the Struggling Battle. He's going to activate the Field Spell, which is damn important. Now we actually... Oh, it's lagging. No, okay, steady. Oh no. Frame rate. Come back. Yeah, okay, we're good. Sorry about that. So obviously we can't... Oh no, we can activate the Dark Magic Circle, I believe. Yes, we'll now have a Dark Magician off that. That'll let us activate our Navigation. Now here I got greedy. I really shouldn't have gone for the Apprentice Illusion Magician knowing I was playing against Psyframes. But I got greedy and wanted the Banish and the Search, so I went ahead and did it. But we're going to be able to banish his Field Spell, which is the most important thing. So even though our Apprentice Illusion Magician gets negated, we banish the Field Spell and he can't make a Synchro Summon from there, or, special a Psyframe, whatever it's technically called in this deck. During the end phase, these both get banished off of Gamma's effect, and I'd rather have the Tuners in grave than banished because of Psychic Field Zone up here, so I'm going to swing over the Gamma and just let the Driver get banished. End phase will set the Eternal Soul, which will let us trigger the Dark Magic Circle again in case he gets the Field Spell, but until then it's Psyframe, so I'm just going to poke and hope that, he doesn't have anything to do. He'll activate the Beta, we'll Ash Blossom that, he'll activate the Gamma to negate the Ash Blossom, so he's going to get 4 cards on field, although we are going to activate the Eternal Soul just to grab the Dark Magic attack, which will let us special the Magician of... Or maybe I did. No, I didn't, because, fucking Psyframes. So he finally has a Banished Tuner, which isn't good for us because he does have a Psychic Field Zone here. So he's going to go ahead and activate that, but we have the Navigation Engrave to negate that. And that is another super strong thing about this deck that even I forget when I'm playing against it, is the Navigation Banish Engrave is a surprise factor that's super strong. Obviously monsters are the focus of this game, but the spells and traps support you, they get you there, they add power. And even for a turn, if you can negate those, that can be what lets you push through, and a lot of the times, whenever I lose to this deck, it is because they use a navigation to stop something and really push through from there. So we'll go ahead, we'll activate the Magician of Dark Illusion from there, just to get some more attack on field, so we can take half his life points down, because he doesn't have any back row, he only has 2 in hand, so we can kind of gamble that he doesn't have anything. Now he's going to draw a trap card, the Psyframe Accelerator here. I'm afraid that that's a Drowning Mirror Force, just from playing against this deck before, so we'll go ahead and swing for 25. We'll draw a Foolish Burial of Belongings and send another one to grave, which can't special one from deck, but we have the Ash Blossom for that. And again, we can see the power of Ash Blossom here. We drew 2 this game, and it's really what saved us. It's what stopped stuff. That card is absolutely insane, and I really love it in the control factor of this deck. We'll go Battle Phase, and we'll push for game through there, through his bait back row. But anyway, that does it for my second Dark Magician deck profile. Again, if you want to check out some of the weaknesses of this deck, check out the last replay I put up. I believe that was the last video I put up, actually, before I finalized this build, really. But anyway, I'm really enjoying this deck. It's really fun. The new Legendary Dragon decks come out on the 6th of next month, I believe, so in, like a week or so. Actually, I think it is in a week here. But again, yeah, super fun, super interesting. It has that interesting control factor, and it can steal some wins here and there, although we'll see once Spirals come out, I guess. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.